next guest is a Capitol police officer who defended lawmakers from insurrectionists that day. He's a 13-year veteran. He was called a racial slur more than a dozen times by rioters as he helped fend off that mob. Capitol Police Officer Harry Dunn joins me now. He is speaking for himself, not on behalf of the department, and I'm so grateful that you are here, and I thank you for your service, and I thank you for defending democracy and the rule of law. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Officer Dunn, we all saw those symbols of hate on display in that crowd that day, but you were there. You were facing them now as a police officer, not just as a police officer, but also as a black man as well. Tell us about the hell that you went through that day.
Where do I start? First of all, that isn't and wasn't normal. Nobody should be subjected to have to go through what me and my colleagues went through. We dealt with terrorists who were hell-bent on changing the results of an election. And sorry, I messed that. I got a little emotional right now. Just that intro kind of, whew, man, took me back there for a minute.
Yeah, well, I want you to be honest. Let's be honest about this. Why is that, Officer Dunn? Today, I guess it was it was a bittersweet kind of moment. It's great that we were acknowledged for getting the gold medal. That's an amazing honor. And if I can say so humbly, it's well-deserved for my coworkers and myself. But the circumstances in which we got it, it didn't come without a great loss. We lost some colleagues, and just thinking about it, it's fresh now. You have good days and you have bad days, but just thinking about it just takes you back to that like you said, that hell day. And it was tough to live through, and it's also tough to relive talking about it. So yeah. Well, I've seen some interviews with you. I've never seen you this emotional. Do you think in the beginning were you in a state of shock, and then now all of a sudden you're coming to the realization of what happened? What is it? Why emotional this time?
I think that's just part of the healing process. And if you allow yourself to be honest about your feelings, stages of grief also, there's no timeline for how you heal. And talking about it, honestly, has been therapeutic for me. And honestly, that's kind of why I'm still talking. There's more to say. I want to tell stories of the heroes that day, my coworkers. We fought some fights. And honestly, after my first interview, a lot of them came to me and expressed their gratitude for me speaking out for us and giving us a voice. And some more shared with me stories of their hells that day. And just thinking about it, it was rough. It is rough. So I guess I carry that a little heavier today, I guess.
Well, listen, I appreciate you sharing that and all of this. I want people to know, I mentioned how you were called racial slurs. Here you are, a police officer who protected the Capitol and the people who are inside of it, mostly to protect the people who are inside of it. That's your job as a Capitol police officer, and to keep the peace. And here you have this group of people who start storming the Capitol and trying to overtake the place that is a symbol of our democracy, and then calling you as a peace officer or a police officer, calling you the N-word. What was that like? Take us through that. Tell us what happened.
So I said before, at that particular moment when I was called, and I'll refer to it as a racial slur. I said it earlier, but that word is a weapon, has been said before, and I don't want to give it power, especially in this moment right now, so I'm going to refer to it as a racial slur.
But at that moment, I was unable to process what had happened because we were physically spent. Once I had time to sit down and put it all together, it was just so overwhelming that here we are giving so much and putting our lives on the line to protect democracy and keep it, and we're being called racial slurs, traitors, and any just weapon that these people could use because they were upset about something. So, and you know what, I guess this is a little harder for me now because at the time I did my first interview, I didn't know the pain that a lot of my other colleagues had suffered. They shared with me, and I'm recalling them now in my head. And
what did they say to you?
It was bad. It was bad. I will share one story. One of my colleagues said that he was called a racial slur. He was carrying a rifle, a long gun that day, and a group of terrorists came to him and said, "You think you're a tough N-word with that gun? Put that gun down and we'll show you what type of N-word you really are." And nobody deserves that. Nobody deserves to be talked to like that, but especially this guy. He did not deserve, it was rough. And I guess but we keep coming back and back, and we love our country even though it doesn't love us back, so.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the country loves you.
I got that quote from Doc Rivers, so.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think people around the country love you. It's just those group of insurrectionist, racist folks who don't really know what real patriotism really is. So there are a lot of people out there who are rooting for you and who have your back. I've got to ask you, though, about some of our lawmakers, like Senator Ron Johnson, who says he wasn't afraid of the insurrectionists or the people who were there because he knew that they support law enforcement and that he wouldn't be hurt. But if it was a group of Black Lives Matter or Antifa, he would have felt completely another way. He is saying those people were patriots, they loved their country, and they weren't racists. What do you say to him?
I can't comment directly to what any of the senators' comments. I will say that those people, the terrorists there on the 6th, they were there to cause harm, and they came prepared for a fight. And they hurt us physically and emotionally. I can only speak specifically to the Black Lives Matter movement at the Capitol this summer. They did come up, and I do know that they did not attempt to breach the Capitol, and I do know that there were officers who listened with them, and some of them took a knee with them. And I'm speaking specifically what happened at the Capitol. I'm not talking about any other states, any other country, state capitals, but I'm talking about the United States Capitol. When these two things happened, those are the facts, and that's what happened, that Black Lives Matter did come to the Capitol. They protested behind the bike racks, and they did not attempt, and they didn't hurt anybody, and nobody was arrested. So I can just speak for those facts.
I mentioned you said you can't comment on what senators have to say, but I mentioned in the beginning Republican Congressman Louis Gohmert and other Trump allies who want to rewrite the history of January 6th. My question is, I know that you don't want to comment on their comments, but how important is it to you that the events of that day are remembered as they really were?
It's always important to tell the truth and be honest about what happened, regardless of what it is. That was an attempted insurrection, and they attempted to interrupt democracy. That's what they attempted to do. And I don't know another way to describe it. Officer Sicknick was killed. We had officers that took their life because of the the stress